9/25/2024 forum for Grays Harbor County Commission. The way that the Grays Harbor County Commission is set up is that there are 3 districts, and in the primary you vote via your district, and then in the general it is opened up to the entire county. So everyone within the North Beach will be voting on these positions even though they're not in District 3. They are responsible for the County Commission District 1 and District 2. District 3 is not running this year, ran last year. So that's Vicki Raines. So what we'll do is, first of all, I want to thank the Lions Club for the availability of this building. And I want to thank Dan Lindgren for volunteering his time and expertise to record this and to provide it to YouTube. So we'll go ahead and start announcing that anybody can go ahead and look at YouTube to follow up on these candidates. We also have candidate forums for representatives, for number 1, representative for I'm going to screw this up regardless. The position number 2, we have the judge position on the 11th, and we have the Senate position as well. So we've got a lot of forums in a short amount of time. The ballots drop on the 18th, and so we're wanting as many people to be aware and make decisions. And I would ask you again to go ahead and fill out the cards for asking questions for this event. We're going to start off with 4 minutes to talk about yourself, and then we'll start with the questions. They have a minute, 2 minutes, and 2.5, and then it's a skull and crossbones. You're done. I get shut off. So we'll start, and I'll go to the right. Rick wants to start, and you know how to turn that on when it's your turn.
Well, good evening. Is that on?
Yes.
Sounding all right? Okay, great. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I think this is a great opportunity to discuss the issues with one another. My name is Rick Hole. I'm running for the County Commissioner, position 2. I'm running because I'm interested in defending, I guess, the rights that we have as American citizens for our government. And I became interested in running and getting more involved when Senate Bill 5599 passed, when the state of Washington decided in their wisdom that the state has a superior right to your children and your family than you do to your minor children. And to me, that was like one step too far, and I know I needed to get involved. So I'm running because I believe in public safety, common sense decision making, and jobs. And when we think about public safety, there's a constitutional requirement that the government protect your property. And they can't abdicate that responsibility by letting somebody else walk up and steal your property. It's their responsibility to ensure your property rights are protected. And by breaking down the moral fabric of our property rights and stuff like that, it tears down the society that we're working so hard to build and defend. When you work, you have the exclusive right to your property. So public safety is really important to me. It has to be, and common sense decision making is important. It wasn't common sense to put the state over family. It's not common sense to ban natural gas. Natural gas is the most plentiful supply of energy that we have in the United States. 40% of our electrical is used by natural gas. And it doesn't make sense in our county when we're putting a natural gas line into the port to build business to let a natural gas peaker plant write down $100 million of their value and have that tax burden spread to the rest of our members. That's the government trying to make a decision for the people that they shouldn't be making. And the same thing is when they're trying to tell you what car you need to drive. So common sense decision making is really important, and jobs are important. My time at Ocean Spray, we brought in 130 jobs in the Crazen facility that they're still there. We worked together to put in the valuable and important infrastructure that we needed. We worked with the Workforce Development Council to bring these jobs in, and jobs are important now. The pellet plant in Hoquiam is an important source of work, and we need to have those jobs. I'm running for public safety, common sense, and jobs. I'd appreciate your vote. Rick Holt, County Commissioner.
I'm Brian Blake. I'm running for County Commissioner, District 2. I live in Aberdeen with my wife, Deborah. Three children, 8 grandchildren. My family came here to Grays Harbor in 1888, settled in Aberdeen, and then later moved out to the Grayland area. A long history of public service. My great-grandfather started the drainage district with others in Grayland there. I graduated from Aberdeen High School in 1979, went to college at Grays Harbor, and was a logger. And did that for several years, and was injured logging. I was in a double fatality logging. It was a very dangerous business back then, and decided to finish college, and got a degree in environmental science studies at Evergreen. It was a real eye-opener for me, a really good decision that I went back and finished college, and it kind of led me where I'm at. I served 18 years in the legislature, and it was how I got there was I got mad about public access to public land, and we were being denied at the Elk River estuary, and got engaged and went up to Olympia and engaged with legislators, got a bill passed as a citizen that first year. I think it was House Bill 1056 by Hatfield, and specifically said that public access was allowable to these natural areas. And it was a real eye-opener, led to a 18-year career in the Washington House of Representatives, where I became chair of the Natural Resources Committee. That service as Natural Resources Chair, I think, is highly relevant to this community. You know, I see we're having some erosion issues to the south here. While I was in the legislature, was directly involved with the folks that were doing the Washaway Beach project down there at North Cove. And while I won't take credit for that project, David Cottrell and Cranberry Farmer and Charlene Nelson brought the community together to focus on solutions to everybody's problems. And that led to support from the regulatory agencies, and they were able to successfully slow that erosion. And I think something similar could happen here. I know some of us have been attending some of the Connor Creek meetings. There's some concern to the north of here and how Connor Creek has evolved over the years. And so I intend to be highly engaged in that issue. But as a county commissioner, you know, our job is to balance the budget and deliver services to our community. Public safety, public health, and that's what I intend to do. Roads, and all those working closely with the county engineer and others. And then working with the other members of the county family team. You've got independently elected sheriffs, auditors, assessors, county clerk, and we need to work with those folks to make sure they have adequate staffing and processes to deliver the services that you deserve. So thank you.
Okay.
Georgia Miller, and I am running for County Commissioner District 1. I am lifelong resident of Grays Harbor County. My husband and I live out the Wenatchee Valley. We're farmers. I'm also a career woman. We own a couple businesses. And I am running because I love Grays Harbor. I am very passionate about my community and the people in my community. We need jobs in Grays Harbor. It's a fact. There's more and more businesses closing every day. I've been actively working on a solution to bring some jobs to Grays Harbor. It's not my original idea, but I've certainly been talking to Sierra Pacific, to Senator Wilson, to Representative Walsh, and Drew McEwen. If he gets into Congress, we'd have a friend in Congress about cross-laminated timber. It's a great product. It checks a lot of boxes for people on both sides of the aisle, both Democrats and Republicans. It's good for our environment, it's good for our economy, and I'm actively working on a plan to bring that to Grays Harbor. I'm a hard worker. I'm very goal-driven and very motivated. If I set my mind to do something, I do whatever it takes to make it happen. My work history is evident of that. I work in a very tough industry. I work in commission-only sales. I've done very, very well because I'm really good at building relationships and caring about people's businesses. You can't fake caring about people because eventually you're found out. People can see through that. I truly care about the people that I've represented and helped grow their businesses. We've mourned some losses, of course, because I've done advertising campaigns for businesses that are no longer here, and that's always very difficult. And I've strategized with people on how to hopefully keep their businesses going. My work experience is more of common sense and practical of nature. I've started businesses, I've sold businesses, so I do know how to create a budget, how to manage a budget, how to manage people, and be profitable. I have experience on boards. I was on the Greater Grays Harbor Inc. board. I was also head of the Ambassador program and Ambassador of the Year. I've also been on many other nonprofit boards, giving back to this community. My heart is a servant's heart, and people that get into elected positions oftentimes forget that they're there to serve the people, not the other way around. And I promise that I will serve the people of Grays Harbor, and I will work very hard for them to bring public safety, to bring jobs, and to hopefully bring unity also, because we have to work with each other. We have to work across the aisles. And in my line of work, I work with a lot of people with diverse backgrounds, and we still have a common goal. And the common goal is the same here. It's to bring jobs and prosperity to Grays Harbor, and that's what I intend to do. So please vote for me, Georgia Miller, District 1. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Thomas, and I'm also running for District 1 County Commissioner. I'm from Montesano, and been there and raised a family there. I come to this position to try to change, to improve things. I have a lot of experience in local government, and I have a track record of success, and experience matters. I'm currently volunteering on the Montesano School Board, where I've helped deal with educational issues in Montesano. I'm also on the Grays Harbor Hospital District, and we're working on improving healthcare in Grays Harbor. Grays Harbor is one of the sicker communities in the state. We have a high overdose rate and we have a lower life expectancy. So there's been a lot of improvements in that. Summit Pacific is doing some great work. Harbor Regional Health is also doing some great work that I'm a part of. We were just able to open up a clinic in Westport. And in my past positions in local government, I've also been a city council person. I was on the Montesano City Council. I served on the, as the city's representative on the Council of Governments, which is a representative council that does regional planning. It comprises mayors, county commissioners, other county organizations. And I chaired that group of this countywide organization. And where partnerships were important. I was also an appointed county auditor. And I think I was here 6 years ago in this room at a candidates forum. As county auditor, I was able to improve that office. At the time, they didn't have debit and credit card services. It's something they said you can't do, and we had a licensing department. And I did a little work with my staff, and we found out we could do it. At the time, you'd have to go into the licensing office, and if you didn't have cash or a check, you'd had to go to another place. So we're able to improve that. And also, as county auditor, I was able to improve our elections tabulation system. And we were able to improve it at a bargain. We got this new system at a bargain cost. I worked with staff to do that. So I have a track record of success in local government. So the things I would want to work on as county commissioner would be some of the major problems facing our community. The opioid epidemic, behavioral health issues in the county, and also the unhoused issues. And I'd work with other organizations to do that. Another thing that I would want to work on is economic vitality. And I know Georgia Miller just mentioned cross-laminated timber. That is something also that I'd be interested in working on. It'd be a good thing for the county. And another thing that I'd like to do is make sure our county government's run in an effective and efficient way. And I was able to do that when I was auditor. Just in my short time there, I was able to improve that office, and I would bring that same approach. And the last thing, I believe you need to bring values to that office. And my values are to speak the truth and to treat people with dignity and respect, and to work together for our common good. Thank you.
6 years later. Chris, can you start with that?
Well,
You want to use your microphone?
Gina, could you ask the question one more time? I wasn't recording, but I
Okay.
can start.
More than 6 years ago, the luncheon at the Log Pavilion with all the mayors, every one of the mayors said that they were focused on bringing cross-laminated timber to their area to make the difference in their budget. And how are you proposing to go ahead and bring that to fruition?
I would work with other organizations to try to attract those industries. And I need to learn more about what those details are. But I think the legislature has a part in that. I think they have in the past. And I would seek to work with the legislature, our local organizations, Greater Grace Harbor, and local jurisdictions too, like perhaps the Port or PUD, and to attract this new industry and make sure it can establish and thrive.
Georgia?
I have actually already identified a potential partner to bring cross-laminated timber to Grays Harbor, and it will need a partnership of a massive investment. There is also currently grant money available from the state of Washington for industry to start cross-laminated timber. I would also create a plan for a tax abatement to make it very lucrative for somebody, or incentivize for somebody to invest those kinds of dollars into Grays Harbor. It's going to take that for somebody to be willing to invest to that level for manufacturing. And I've already talked to Sierra Pacific, and they're very excited for something like that to happen. As we know, Cosmo Specialty Fibers is down. There's a backup of a bunch of product sitting there. It's about to not have it doesn't have very many places to go. So we do need to figure something out for that. Like I said, I'm actively working on a plan and identifying partners and relationships to make this plan to come to fruition. Working with our current state legislators and senators, and also I've been talking to different municipalities, City of Hoquiam, to try and see, well, what would the holdups be? Well, I've already identified potentially a location, and so it is in the baby steps, because I started campaigning in February of this last year, and then it was sometime within a couple weeks that I knew that something needed to happen in Grays Harbor. I wanted something big to happen, and cross-laminated timber might be it, but it might not be. But there's something else if it's not it, because we're gonna make something happen.
Brian?
Yeah, when I was in the legislature, I was heavily involved in kind of getting cross-laminated timber started in the state. And it's unfortunate that some of the investment hasn't come here to Grays Harbor. That doesn't mean it won't. And as you heard earlier, this is about partnerships. It's being involved with the EDC and the chamber in the county, having relationships at the port, with the PUD. The county has economic development funds that they can use to build some infrastructure. Say there's a sewer line needed, et cetera, power lines to the project site. And there's other incentives, and it's about being a partner in the community. It's also about preserving our rail corridor and our transportation corridor from Grays Harbor to the greater community outside Grays Harbor. And it's also about preserving our timber resources. There's folks out there that are trying to actively shut down timber management in Grays Harbor County and across the state. Having private timber available, DNR timber available, and God forbid, Forest Service timber again someday. We have vast resources here that are not being managed by the Forest Service. Me personally, I believe that the spotted owl crisis was a hoax. It's very clear that the forest management at the Forest Service is not being done properly, and we need to abolish the Northwest Forest Plan and start over, and bring those resources around the laws. This is not about harvesting old growth. This is about managing previously managed landscapes.
Thank you. Rick?
Yeah, I want to agree with Brian on that. We need to sustainably start harvesting our forests. I was the president of the Grays Harbor Chamber of Commerce, 1997. The year the spotted owl came in and just kicked the tires out from under our communities. And I remember meeting with you up the ledge as we talked about that, tried to do something together to prevent that. A hoax. I liked your word. It was a hoax. In Ocean Spray Cranberries, when we lost the bottling line, then we were able to operate as a juice pressing facility, and we regrew our infrastructure. Ocean Spray had a hurdle rate of 30%. So if we were going to put money to work, like let's say we had $1 million project, we were going to pay that back in less than 3 years. Right now there's a CLT plant that I've been reading about in Oregon close to the University of Oregon. And I don't know what the demand for laminated timber is. If it makes sense to bring a plant up here, it's a good idea. If it makes sense to harvest our timber and send it down to an established plant, that's a good idea. But we want to make sure that we're not investing our money, your money, on something that won't have a return on investment. And 30% is a pretty good return. But saying that, we have a caring community, and we know that. We see it from our hospitals, we see it from the YMCA, we see it from all the scholarships that we have to get an education here. And I've been wondering out loud to some of the managers of those funds. I think Grace Harbor Foundation has $75 million. How much of that money is being invested locally? And the answer is not much. And I think there's an opportunity to invest locally, so that would be important. How can we invest locally? The other thing is, I think as we look into sustainable energy, I think whether you like it or not, offshore wind is probably in our future. And in Norway, they're building those windmills out of timber. They're building the blades out of timber because the fiberglass ones aren't recyclable. There's a real opportunity for us to build an industry and get started on it. I don't mean 100, but one at a time for a sustainable workforce.
Feels
Okay.
so official right now. If you were on the Grays Harbor County Commission, what would you do to cure the $3 million deficit?
So, the current commission, as I understand it, has chosen to dip into reserves to balance the budget. I think that the real answer is, I don't know. To balance that budget, I need to get in there. I need to understand it, fully understand it. Where are the what's general fund money, what's road money, what's how does the Grace Harbor is unique in that we years ago we didn't transfer our timber to have the state manage it. So we have our own county resources, our own county forestry department. Need to understand what its revenue stream is. And so I can't sit here and tell you how I would solve the problem that the county did with its current budget. I need to know more. There's nothing like actually having it as your task to inspire you to get things done. So I'm not going to sit here and say that what the current commission did was wrong.
Rick, can you answer that?
Oh, yeah.
Once again, I agree with Brian. I don't know the answer, but I think that my approach would be to meet with the department heads and to talk to them. They're the boots on the ground. They know if there's issues or if there's things that we can do to save some money. We all have to live within a budget. We do that with our families, and I think that's also important in the county. Be willing to look for ways that you might not have considered. You don't know where funding might be, or we had an interesting thing when we were building that Craisins facility. The bids all came in, and I wanted Rawlings to do it, and he was $100,000 over the other bid. But we just seen the mess that they'd made of that bluff when the out-of-towners came in, and so, yeah, I wanted a local guy. And so I went and talked to Randy. I said, man, we're 100,000 off, what can you do? He made a call to the carpenters union, and they had a fund where he was able to actually buy down his labor rate by 50,000. And then I sold that back to the plant, or to upper management, and Rawlings got that contract. And they started that November 1, and it rained for the next 6 months. I don't know if you guys remember that. If it hadn't have been Rawlings doing that contract, that Craisins plant would have just washed away. The local people had to get it done, and I'm just trying to tell you, the local people in Grace Harbor County are caring, compassionate people, and they're gonna pull together, and they're gonna get this sort of stuff done. They're gonna do it every time. You just you ask them, you work with them. And like George is saying, we're here to serve the locals, and they're gonna make that budget work. Thanks.
There's nothing that's going to help the budget more than bringing revenue to Grays Harbor, and that happens through industry coming to Grays Harbor. We have to create partnerships that bring jobs here, and then that will help with the tax base, to spread around the tax base. We can't pay more on taxes. We're already paying enough in taxes. I don't know about you all, but our tax bill went up a lot last year, a lot. And so we need to do things outside the box, and some of the things are being done in other areas, and some that have been done here before. Tax abatements, tax incentives, streamline the process, make it easier for people to want to come and build here, to invest here, to do business here. And that will certainly help with the budget. We also need to look at the budget, and it should be transparent. The departments should be giving us an accounting of where all that money is going. Are we making wise investments? Is now the right time to be buying that piece of equipment, or can it wait? That's what we all have to do in our own homes, is we have to decide, can I make do with the truck that has 400,000 miles on it? True story, we have one. Or can we invest in a new one? And I'll tell you, we're hunkering down and making the old one work. And that's what we need to do at the county level. We have to invest in infrastructure when it's appropriate to do so, because otherwise you're stagnant and you're not growing. But you also have to be not overspending when you don't have it. So there's a balance there. And I'm a strategic thinker. I like to think moves out and how this is gonna affect people. And I'm careful, I'm thrifty. I know how to make a dollar stretch. And certainly we will lean on the employees of the county. I think they're doing a great job, I do. And so they need good leadership, and I hope to provide additional leadership for them, so.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, what's interesting about local government, I mean, it's actually more of a problem, is that it operates under an environment of constraints, where there's more that you have to do than revenue you're getting in to address it. So regarding the current budget, 3 million discrepancy there. I would also talk with staff and department heads and get information on what are the drivers of this gap. And often when I was auditor, the one thing I learned is that like my biggest successes in the department were because of staff. They have insights into how things operate. They have ideas to improve things, to save money. So it would be to go to the officials, the electeds, the department heads, and get information on how we can address this. Like I said, whether it's something that's structural, that's going to continue, or whether it's something that they can adjust and fix. And then maybe trying to find different revenue streams, trying to find different pots of money to to address that. Maybe, public safety levy or something, but to explore a wide range of ideas, but to kind of dig deep and to look at the budget and maybe make decisions, maybe through department heads, find out if we need to cut back and have the local people make the decisions on some of that because they know best, and to kind of move forward and look at whether this is going to be an ongoing thing, whether we need to make further adjustments down the road. So I think it's a balanced approach, but there's no silver bullet. It just requires looking at it and making decisions and looking ahead.
So Chris, I'm gonna ask each one of you. There was a question about what is cross-laminated timber and why is that important?
It's a, I may not have all the details figured out, but it's like a byproduct of timber that there's an industrial process to create timber, without cutting down old growth or something that can be used in manufacturing. So it's a resource we have an abundance of, and it's a new way to use it. It creates a very strong product that's light and has a lot of potential.
Georgia?
So cross-laminated timber is made from the thinning out of our forests, and the reason why it checks so many boxes for Democrats and Republicans both is because it is helping better manage our forests by, instead of letting the thinned out just lay down and rot there and become a hazard for fire, as we're seeing all over our nation, it instead utilizes that product and turns that product into jobs. And they're making, they made some schools utilizing cross-laminated timber. It's sort of like a glue lam product, but it's made in a way that is stronger. It's stronger than dimensional lumber, yet cheaper to build, or cheaper to manufacture than dimensional lumber. And they're working on, part of the problem has been, because of its infancy, has been that insurance companies aren't really sure how it's going to perform long term. And so they haven't really known what to do with it, as far as like, can we insure a building that's made with cross-laminated timber? And so that's why in the very, very early stages, I think it was harder to get it to happen. But I think the time is right. I think that it can happen, and now more of those bugs have been worked out, and they have some examples of it being used and it working. And so, so it's great. It's good for the environment, like I said, because it reduces the risk of forest fires, and it utilizes a product that was just going to waste. And so, and it brings money to Grays Harbor. We have thinned out, we have timber for lands that need thinned out, and we can utilize those. So, thanks, Rick.
Rick?
Yeah, so in cross-laminated timber, the strands are oriented differently so that the stress on the wood, it's able to hold a higher stress. So what they're doing is, rather than using concrete and steel, both of those ingredients are high environmental impact ingredients, because to make the concrete, right now, you off-gas a whole bunch of CO2, and of course steel just takes a whole lot of energy. So what they're finding, and they're doing more and more of the buildings of a lower, like let's go 4 to 8 floors, or 8 to 12, and so they're experimenting using the cross-laminated timber in our urban areas, and they're finding success. And not only is it easier, you can also pre-cut the wood like like you would a pre-stressed concrete that they're putting over a highway or something like that. So it's easier to build with, and it's sequestering the carbon that you grew up in the tree, and it's putting in that building, and it's gonna be in that building, you know, forever. And so it's just a win-win-win if we can use it for buildings and if we can use it offshore for windmills.
So the short answer is it's the best thing since sliced wood. I have that shirt. But you see out in the doorway here, the OSB, the Oriented Strand Board. Well, it's OSB on steroids. And so you take this forest carbon and you glue it up into huge panels, and think of a four-story apartment building. And if you were building that out of wood, you have to build the first floor and frame in and do all this stuff. The panels and walls all glued up in a factory, trucked to the site, and just go up like big Legos. And the big win, and why, as you've heard from the other panelists, why there's broad support when the timber industry gets jobs, but the carbon cycle, there is free carbon in our atmosphere. A tree grows, absorbs carbon, falls over, rots, the carbon goes back into the atmosphere. What folks are trying to do is lock up that carbon in buildings for 100 years. And as you heard, sequester that carbon and bring it out of the atmosphere, put it in a building, put it in a school, put it in, and remove it from the atmosphere for the long term. And that's the win-win for the cross-laminated timber.
So on that subject, the question is, how many jobs do you think this is gonna bring about? Do you have a?
Well, I think, you know, it can preserve jobs. You know, you look at, I forget the name of the mill. I've toured it over there in eastern Washington, over in Stevens or Farragut County, but it preserves jobs where they were a community that were gonna lose their sawmill and lose those logging jobs. This can preserve jobs. The amount of jobs it can add is to be determined. And these are, you know, not just jobs pulling on the green chain. These are folks that are gonna go to Grays Harbor College, learn to use computerized milling machines that will assemble the panels and then cut, you know, the window shapes out, et cetera, et cetera. It's a really diverse group of folks that will be employed.
Rick, do you wanna answer that too?
When I first came to the harbor in '73, I was pulling on that green chain there at the warehouse, and we probably all grew up pulling timber. Yeah, it's hard to determine how many jobs that would be. I would be in favor of, you know, starting off small and something that we could sustain and grow over time. There's no doubt that it's a better alternative for numerous reasons than steel and concrete. It gets us into our forests again. It gets us logging them instead of burning them down. It sequesters the carbon. So, you know, it's just going to be a much better solution. And here in the state of Washington, we are growing. The state grew 15% over the last 5 years. On the harbor, it only grew 5%, and that's good in some ways, because we don't want it to be overcrowded. We don't want it to be in like a Tacoma or Seattle. But the reality is about 100,000 people a year are moving into the state of Washington, and they need to live someplace. And we're seeing issues around available buildings and housing, and Grays Harbor County can be a part of that solution. And if this is one way to get at that, I think it's a good way. And so we ought to be pursuing it. But again, I would be reluctant to have too much government, and let's get a little more private enterprise and looking for those 30% ROIs and get some money. There's a lot of money in the harbor that we could be investing back into the harbor, and I think this would be a great opportunity.
Thank you, Georgia.
One of the things that I forgot to mention about cross-laminated timber is also the carbon tax credits that it provides anybody that would be looking to build a manufacturing plant. I'm not sure how many direct jobs that it would create, because it would depend on how big the investment was and how big the manufacturing plant would be. But I can tell you that anytime something goes in and creates jobs, the trickle-down effect to the other jobs that it creates is huge. They eat in restaurants, and so you can hire another wait staff or another cook. They shop at grocery stores, so you might need another butcher in the back. The trickle-down effect is huge. So anytime you have industry come to the area, it isn't just the direct jobs. It's all the other jobs and the shopping that their families come and do. So it's really important. And also, when their kids get enrolled in schools, there's more money for those schools. So it's all the different things that take place when you bring in industry. And again, I think cross-laminated timber would be great because it's already a resource we have. But if that didn't come to fruition, I wouldn't stop there. There's other industries that can come to Grays Harbor. We just have to build relationships and make it desirable for people to come here and invest here. So cross-laminated timber isn't the end-all be-all. If that doesn't work out, I'm not done. I'm still gonna continue to work on other opportunities. So we don't wait for opportunities to come around, we create opportunities.
Yeah, regarding the specific number that cross-laminated timber would bring in, I mean, I'm gonna say very similar to things to my colleagues here. I'm not sure what the exact amount, but it's a good fit for the harbor with our natural resources and our labor market and what we have. But the thing that's kind of key is that truly to have a vibrant economy, you need a diversified economy. And cross-laminated timber would be definitely part of that. But other industries would be key. And industries that are family wage and industries with insurance are vital. Because without them, I mean, you definitely see when we had the last couple of mill closures, being involved at the hospital, they saw it there. They saw the amount of uninsured people show up at the ER. So a diversified economy, like we need to push, get cross-laminated timber for whatever its potential, and then bring in other industries. And there's a whole wide range of them. We have some industries in front of us that provide a lot of family wage jobs, and well, like the healthcare industry. We're just seeing growth at Summit. And that's a good thing for the harbor, to see more access to healthcare and to see that expand so people can, get their medical services here and not Olympia. So seeking for a more diverse economy in different industries and however you want to bring it, partnerships or tax incentives is vital, and it's something that I understand too. I spent 17 years as an economic analyst where I did the economic reports for the state, and I studied mass layoffs, and a diversified economy, a college like Grays Harbor College providing skilled workers like nurses, and programs for the trades. All those things I think are going to help with our economy and add to whatever cross-laminated timber brings in.
Thank you. This is a question, and it's relevant. We still see the signs on the highway and on our roads. Do you support Wild Olympics? Do you want to start? Sure.
I do not support Wild Olympics because I think that the lands, I think people are for the most part responsible, and lawbreakers are gonna break the law no matter what. So when you close the forests off and create wilderness areas that nobody can go into, well, the lawbreakers will still go into it if they want to, because lawbreakers are lawbreakers. But most of us are responsible people, and if we want to go into the forest lands that our taxpayers, our tax dollars paid for, we should be able to do that. And the government shouldn't be in the business of stealing people's property and taking away their access to their homes. Wild Olympics would have cut off access to some people's homes. They would have had no way to get there, and that's wrong. So I don't support eminent domain. I don't support things that infringes on the rights of others. And I believe that the Wild Olympics does that. I think it hurts our economy, and I think there's better things that we can do. I think in general, people are responsible and want to be responsible with our resources. We want to leave a better world for our children and our grandchildren, and so I think most people would do that. And the people that won't do that aren't gonna do that anyway. We just need to hold them accountable, and we're not doing a lot of that these days. We need to hold people accountable for their actions.
With Wild Olympics, I mean, right now there's it's pretty much done, right? I mean, it's government land. I'm not super in favor of it, but I also want to maintain our fisheries and salmon and keep those vital. I was just spent a weekend at Westport seeing that our fisheries out there are the ninth largest port in our state, and commercial port, and it's sustainable and it brings in jobs, and so I'm not in favor of expanding that or taking any more, but I do think plans to maintain our salmon fisheries is important for the harbor too.
Me?
Yeah.
I strongly oppose Wild Olympics. I think the Olympic National Park is a jewel that I feel blessed to live nearby. But the situation is kind of out of control. There was a beautiful road that took you up the Queets Valley, went to a beautiful campground, and the Queets River eroded that road. So the answer was, just shut her down. Now they have made a kind of a back way in, but it's nothing like it was. You have to know what you're doing to find your way into the Queets campground. Same thing happened over, I think, on the Dosey Wallops, the river avulsed the road. No, we're gonna destroy the campground. We're not gonna build a new road to the campground. We've stopped Wild Olympics now since, I believe, 2012. Nothing bad has happened to the forest. Nothing bad has happened to the salmon. There's no reason for Wild Olympics. They told us years ago, well, it will lead to increased tourism if you pass Wild Olympics. In those years since 2012, have they been building trail systems on that Forest Service land? Have they been building trailheads and fixing access for places for folks to go? Is there a viable trail from the West Fork of the Hump Tulips around into the Wainuchi Valley so folks can horseback around and come out in Donkey Creek and go here and there? There is so much opportunity on our national forest land to build infrastructure for tourism and outdoor recreation, and the Forest Service has absolutely failed to invest in that infrastructure.
Yeah, I agree with the rest of the panel here that we should stop Wild Olympics. It makes it makes no sense. Nobody, and I'm generally opposed to more and more land being tied up by our government agencies. The land, we're loggers, we're conservationists. It's our lifeblood. We're not going to go out there and ruin things. We're not ruining our rivers. We're in here for the long haul. It's for our families. So it just makes absolutely no sense, and it's a bad idea. However, I'm concerned about it because it's important to Patty Murray, and it seems to just have a life of its own. It never dies, and I'm worried, and we should all be concerned that some late night they're going to be wanting to do some bill back there in the Senate, and they're going to need one Democrat vote, and the rest of the nation doesn't know, and they're not going to care. They're going to go, well, Patty Murray will vote for us on this. Let's give her the Wild Olympics that she's been looking for the last 12 years. To me, it's serious. We should all take a Stop Wild Olympics sign. We should fly those things proudly, because if we don't stand up, if we the people don't stand up, we're going to get that shoved down our throats. Anyway, yeah, Stop Wild Olympics.
Each commissioner has their strengths. What do you believe that you bring to the table?
So while serving in the Washington legislature, I quickly learned that you got to work all four corners. There's House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats, and I could walk into the offices in all four corners and get access. It's important that you find issues to work on with folks and build those relationships. And wearing a bolo tie that was built, handmade by Representative Tom Dent, a Republican from Moses Lake, a very close friend of mine. And so I think the quality I bring is to bring people together and find solutions that work for folks. And it's so critical at this stage in our country's history. We just seem to be at each other's throats, and we've all got to take a step back and find a way to work together for a common purpose. The risk is just too great to not do that. And so I think that's the quality I bring. It's the ability to listen to the other side's ideas and respect them. As chairman of the Natural Resources Committee, I made sure that the minority voice was always heard on my committee, and tried to move bills that the minority party put forward in my committee out of committee, and I think I did that successfully. I think it's just critical that we try to hear the other side.
Yeah, it's like the kindergarten report card, plays well with others. I think I checked that box. I like people. I don't think I'm overly smart. It's not my idea that has to prevail. I think it's the best idea that should prevail. And you only get that by bringing others in. I think we have a diversity of opinions and people in our county. I've been in cost analyst, controller, plant manager. I've worked that side of the business. I've been in the union side of the business. I've negotiated contracts. I've been president of the Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council, which is your training dollars that come in. So I've seen business fairly broadly, and I'm able to work collaboratively with others to find the solutions that work, like when we brought that Craisins facility in. So I think that that's all really important. What I also bring is a financial conservatism. I know how to spell ROI. I know what that should look like. It's not just about government. Private industry has to be part of the solution also. The tribes have to be part of the solution. So I think I'm going to bring that for you. I don't think any of my cars have less than 250,000 miles on them. You know, so what I mean, like Georgia was saying, we're going to make it work. Sometimes you know have to make it work. And I'm used to living in a budget, so I'm going to bring all that to you. I like people. I know sustainability. We have raised sheep and goats on a small little 4 acres, and I had this great idea. I'm going to come and raise lamb and market it to the world, right? And then you go like, about September, you go, wait, I'm out of grass. You know, now I'm buying hay. And so you start to understand what the land can support, and you build your infrastructure around your natural resources. We have timber, we have fish, we have a college, we have a hospital system. I mean, we're top notch and we're caring people. And so I'm going to bring that also. The people and the sustainability, not get over your skis, not get overbuilt, and then the vision for the future. And I'd love to serve you as your county commissioner.
Yes, please.
I bring to the table my Energizer Bunny. I have unlimited amounts of energy. I am a very hard worker. I work a full-time job. I farm. I'm a mom. I have a business. I volunteer. I'm a doer. I get things done. I get a lot of things done. I want to get a lot of things done for Grays Harbor. I also know how to get the best out of people. You get the best out of people by being a really good example. I've never asked anybody to do any job that I wasn't willing to do myself. And usually I will do the worst, dirtiest job because I have a really hard time asking people to do something that I'm not willing to do myself, because it's wrong. And that's why when I say I have a servant's heart, I truly have a servant's heart. I want to serve the community of Grays Harbor because I love them. I love the people here. I've never met a more generous and resilient, the people, they take a licking and they keep getting back up. Grays Harbor won't die. It won't die. And I want to help make sure it doesn't die because I love it here. I love the people. I'm one of you. Like I said, I'm a really hard worker that is goal-driven, results-oriented. I like to get things done. And I'm going to get things done in Grays Harbor. You just watch.
It's kind of nice to hear what we're all going to bring because we all have different qualities and stuff. We're all, you know, public servants, you know. What I would bring to the county commissioner's office is I would bring thoughtful leadership, I would bring experience, and I would bring my values. And when I was an auditor, I brought to that office an approach of collaboration. I went in knowing nothing about that office. There's 4 different departments. And I went in and learned from each department. I listened to them, and I created a process where we collaborated. I would institute weekly meetings where we would all report on different things, good things, bad things, what we need to improve. Things that I learned from employment security, their private sector things. So I would bring that thoughtful leadership. I would bring an eye to improve things when I was auditor. I brought a new election system in, I improved services, and I also looked at other departments to modernize and did work on that. And I would bring the values that, the job as an elected official, as a public servant, as an auditor or a school board member or a commissioner is for the public good, and it's bigger than your own self or ego. And that's why, I do these things, So those are the things I would bring to the office as a county commissioner.
We're gonna start off with you, Chris. If you are appointed to a committee and you know nothing about it, how do you prepare yourself?
Well, that kind of reminds me of when I got into the auditor's office. Well, first, if there's staff, there's a couple of ways you could approach it, but staff is key. The people that do the job. So you would talk with them. You'd ask them questions, make sure they could speak their mind. You would, if it's a little more technical, you may want to research any comp plans, RCWs. But as county commissioner, I would be meeting with the public officials, the elected officials, the department heads, and just learning as much as I could about each department. And that's kind of something standard that you do almost in any major job. And then, and listen.
Georgia? Thank you.
Similar to what Chris said, I think you have to go to the people who are already involved in that committee and who have been involved in that committee, and ask them about that. And people who have served in the past on that committee. What was the history of the committee? Why have they made some of the decisions that they've made? Because it's easy to think that a decision is wrong when you don't know the history of how you got to that decision and why we're on this path. Like the Economic Development Council merging with the Chamber of Commerce. Well, why did that happen and how did we get there? And so things of that nature, it's really important, I think, to get the history, to ask the people that are involved in it currently and been involved with it in the past. And then also, do your homework. I love research. I like knowing things, and I like finding out about things and what makes something work and why it is the way it is and how can we make it better. And so there's books and there's the internet is unlimited information on the internet. So just watch YouTube. And anyway, I'm just kidding. But yes, I think researching and asking the people that are involved in the committee already is a good way to go.
Thank you. Rick?
Well, certainly, yes, talk to the people that are involved. I like a mentor concept. I always like to find somebody that's a lot better than me and try to ask them what they were thinking about or why they did certain things. And I think you can find mentors anywhere. I know Dan Lindgren here taught me how to format the painter. I don't know if you guys use that in Word or Excel or something like that, but I had never known that little trick. So you can find things out in a lot of places. I like to read. I'm sure that if I was appointed to a committee, I'd probably read a number of years worth of minutes just to find out, what they were up to, what they've been going through. And so that would be in addition to finding wise people in the community that were involved with that committee. I'd read a lot. So.
And Brian? Thank you.
Yeah, I can't add much to that. I think that, the thing that I observed when I was in the legislature is it's staff that really makes us look smart. I mean, Don worked for me as my legislative assistant and the committee staff, and there's a lot of knowledge out there. And just constituents and the man on the street. You know, one of my favorite things to do is sit down and talk to somebody and learn their life story. And you learn so much from people who've lived the life. And the only other thing I can really add to that is I'm a visual person. I like to sit and observe. You know, I'll never forget you say when you were appointed to a committee, I was appointed to the drought committee. They say we've got a drought, so I'm on the drought committee, and so I pulled into my parking spot in Olympia for the first meeting of the drought committee, and the sprinklers every sprinkler was just on full bore, and I thought, well, that's an odd welcome to the drought committee, and of course we got in, the meeting started, and we called up some of the major municipalities in Olympia and Seattle, and one of the first questions, are you going to ask your customers to cut back on their water use? And they looked at us kind of funny. Well, why would we do that? Well, there's a declared drought. Well, we're going to take a wait and see approach to, see if it's still a drought in September or October. And I just found it odd that the response to drought by state government was kind of flipped. But, so observation, I think, is pretty important.
I want to ask you, what have you done to prepare for the county commission's job?
Well, I think a life of experience. I've split shake boards. I've flipped burgers at McDonald's. I've worked at a fish cannery while I was in the legislature up in Alaska, 18 years in the legislature. I'm a commissioner for the Pacific States Marine Fisheries Commission. I'm on the Coastal Pelagic Species Advisory Subcommittee for the Pacific Management Council, Fisheries Management Council. I think I've service on the Drought Committee, and active in communicating with our port officials, our PUD officials, and our hospital commissioners, and I just think I have a life of experience that understands Grays Harbor and will be able to work with others to improve things.
Yes, me also. I've spent a lot of years in the harbor and done a lot of different things. In high school, I was a farm helper, farm worker, wheel lines, irrigation, stuff like that. Did all sorts of jobs. We were in Green Giant, asparagus. We worked with the row croppers, the guys that would pick asparagus. The Hispanics, interestingly enough, they would come in and they'd start picking at 5 in the morning, and the patriarchs would bring in their little pickup truck full of asparagus, and we'd unload it about 7. They had their kids in the field at 5. The whole family would pick together that first bundle, and then the kids would go off to school. And so all my life, I've had these interesting experiences. I was with laborers working at the nuclear site. I had a really interesting job where I took soil compaction tests. I have a degree in soil science and a degree in business administration from WSU with an emphasis in accounting. And so I take a test every 2 or 3 hours, and then the rest of the time I was able to walk around and watch them build a nuclear power plant, which is incredibly amazing, talking to the unions that were out there. So yeah, I like people, I like to talk to people. My experience with Ocean Spray, I've described to you how we were able to bring jobs to the harbor. And I think where we're at in the harbor now, as I said, I think public service or public safety is our number one thing, because if that deteriorates, we lose people wanting to live here and people wanting to do business here. And we're coming to the point that we can't afford like we talked about the $3 million deficit, we can't afford the services that we need to rely on. And the way out of that is through jobs. And, you know, like this pellet mill, that should go into Hoquiam, and there's people that, well, maybe it's dusty, maybe it's too close to the school. But we need to overcome that, and we need to get that job in there, and we need to get more jobs coming into our harbor. And that's what's gonna allow us to be able to invest in our infrastructure and our public safety and those things that we want as a community. So I'd say it's my lifetime experience that will serve me as Grays Harbor County Commissioner.
Georgia? Thank you, Rick.
So to prepare for being a county commissioner, in my life, I spent my life on the harbor. I spent my life in a myriad of jobs, much like Brian Blake. I've flipped burgers and waited tables and done all kinds of things. And my career, the last almost 15 years, has predominantly been spent in advertising, building relationships with nonprofit organizations, business owners, and organizations throughout Grays Harbor County. It is relationships that make the world go round. Relationships make things happen. I'm really good at building relationships. I'm good at finding common ground, even with people that don't always agree with me. We all have something in common. And I like to utilize that common ground to build off of. And how can we move forward in a positive direction? Again, even if we don't necessarily see eye to eye on everything, we can certainly agree on some things because we all have common ground. I've spent a lot of time serving the community on commissioner boards. Like I said, Greater Grays Harbor Inc., I served on that board. Currently vice president of the Montesano Chamber of Commerce. I've been on the board for the Children's Advocacy Center and president of Aberdeen Revitalization Movement, and the list goes on. We used to feed every single Saturday at the Union Gospel Mission. Giving back to the community is my heart. It's my passion to be involved. I like talking to people and finding out what's going on in their life. What do they need? What do they want to see happen in Grays Harbor County? What is holding them back from making their own investments in Grays Harbor County? Why can't they build that home that they've always dreamed of? And then I think once you understand the issues and understand the people, you can help formulate a plan. I've also read a lot about the role of the county commissioner. Ever since I decided to throw my hat in the ring and decide I was gonna run really hard to win this position, I have educated myself as much as I possibly can on what a commissioner does. And then asking people who've been in the job, asking people that work with the commissioners, meeting with community leaders, and finding out how I can best serve Grays Harbor County.
I think the thing that prepared me the most for county commissioner is the time I spent as auditor. In that position, I had to work with the county commissioners. I had to attend the meetings. I had to, if I wanted to hire somebody, I had to go through a process through the county commissioners. I had to do a budget. You know, I had to meet with the commissioners. So the processes that they do, I was involved in, and I had to also work with them too. So I know that kind of taught me how the county runs, the technical things. It kind of taught me how about the people too. and the relationships. Because you have to negotiate things sometimes. Because when I was auditor, I had certain goals and requirements, but I had to, argue it in my budget. I had to get that through to him. So that taught me a lot. So I know how the county runs. I've been there. More recently, I have started to attend the county meetings by Zoom, and I've met with county commissioners and learned what's going on now. And I've also, gone to the website, looked up things, the different roles, the different committee assignments that the commissioners are involved in. So I'm educating myself now. But most of the time I was there in the county, working with the commissioners in local government, taught me, prepared me for the position now as county commissioner.
So you're gonna love this one. There was a new hire position in the county of a county administrator. And it's a discussion that's been had before, but I'd kind of like to have your take on it. And I think we're gonna start down in with Rick.
Well, that decision was made. I've always felt that I will earn my salary. And as plant manager, I was compensated fairly well. And I didn't have any problem with coming to work every day thinking that the company was going to make my wages. So there was an ROI for bringing me in to work for Ocean Spray, and there will be, I expect to deliver the same to the county as a commissioner. So my expectation is that the new director that was hired is coming in with that same purpose, if you will, and mindset that it's going to pay for himself on an annual basis. And so I think great decision. I'm looking forward to how that plays out in the county.
Thank you. Ryan?
Yeah, I don't think when I heard they were thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I'm not so sure. But I've listened to folks, and had I been there, I'm not sure I would have supported doing this, but now that they've made their decision, I think it's important that we give this model a really fair chance to work. I've also talked to folks that think this is pretty important to have this chain of command for accountability, and that the old way was not working well. So I want to give it a chance. I've met the new administrator, and I am impressed with him so far, and let's give him a chance and see how this works.
Thank you. Chris?
I think the county administrator, there's a lot of advantages to it. And like Brian says, yeah, it's already in place. I think the bringing a continuity of professionalism, there's different individuals, county commissioners, city council people, school board members, they all have different abilities and engagement sometimes. And a county administrator, there's advantages to that, to have somebody professionally oversee these departments. So yeah, I think we should, see how it goes. I know when I was with the city, we looked at a city administrator from Montesano, and the rationale was it would provided continuity, the same professional leadership through the years. So that being said, there is some people have come to me saying, hey, is that administrator going to be doing most of the work of the commissioners, I think the commissioners need to still work as much as they're doing, to pull it in full time, but they will need to find perhaps different things instead of the things that they were doing. So I think the commissioners need to work full time, but let the administrator do the professional technical things. So.
And Georgia. Thanks, Chris.
I think that consistency is really important, and when the county commissioner position is a 4-year term, and if they only run and win one term, then there creates this inconsistency in the work environment for the employees of the county. And so having an administrator that remains consistent, regardless of who gets voted in and voted out, I think it's important for the morale of the employees at the county. And I think it helps rise that level of service that the employees of the county are providing to the people, the taxpayers of the county. I was very concerned about the position because I am not a supporter of expansion of government. And when I asked the current commissioners about it and to really explain it to me, they explained that there was 2 positions that were coming up for retirement, 2 director level positions, and that they were not going to fill at the director level, and instead they were going to hire the administrator. So the management level would be the top level. So those 2 salaries that they were no longer positions they were no longer going to fill, those salaries would, the administrator position would actually be less than those 2 salaries combined, plus it's only benefits for 1 person versus 2. And so I support that. I have also met the administrator. I am impressed. He's got a great resume. And if he does his job well, he will actually save the taxpayers money. And so I do think we need to give it a chance. Let him do what he was hired for, and I believe it's going to work out. City administrators have been known to save the city's money and to be very effective for the taxpayers, and I think that I think it'll show itself to be a good use of resources. And again, I don't believe that it was an expansion of government because they didn't fill those 2 positions, and instead they created the 1 position instead of the other 2.
Thank you. Do you believe that as a candidate, and I'm going to you, Brian, do you believe as a candidate that the party that you are affiliated with is going to make the difference in the job that you do? And that will go to all of you, of course.
You know, I've always been known as my own man, and while I am a member of the Democratic Party, the truth is I don't fit real well in either party. I'm certainly pro-choice, pro-marriage equality, and I'm a pro-gun, and that puts me at odds with my party right away. And that said, on any of these issues, folks, my door is open for folks to make an argument why a policy is or isn't the right policy. And I don't think the party will at all control how I do my job.
Rick?
Well, I align with the Republican Party, and I align with them because they share my values. And I think that it's important when you're electing an official that you understand their values, because we're trying to live in a community, I believe, that holds the value of public safety, of common sense, jobs. I think a reliance on the Constitution, And I think I see a creeping towards an agency trying to control what goes on. And I think I explained, you know, being natural gas, being what cars should you drive, those sort of things. And I think at each position in your government that you need to have people that are defending your values. And I'm going to defend the constitutional values, I'm going to defend family values that I grew up with, and that the Republican Party exemplifies.
Thank you. Georgia?
I think more so than the position being about Democrat or Republican, it really is what's in the best interest of the community of Grays Harbor. I think most people fall somewhere in the middle. They're not extreme left and they're not extreme right. They want our communities to move forward. They want our communities to be safe. They want jobs. They want to be able to afford to continue to live in their homes and not be taxed off of their properties. My values do align with the Republican Party, and that's why I ran on the Republican ticket. And I've always said, though, if my party leaves my values, I would leave my party. I'm not beholden to any party. I'm not beholden to any person. I'm beholden to God. That's who I'm beholden to, and to doing the right thing, always doing the right thing. So again, I don't think it is as much Republican or Democrat. It's being able to strategically think about what the consequences of our actions are. And if I make this decision, will people be hurt? Will people be helped? And so making decisions that are in the best interests of the community to which I'm supposed to serve. And so, again, my values are conservative, fiscally conservative, and I support property rights. I am a concealed carry, so I support gun rights. I believe in the Constitution in its entirety. I think it's one of the best pieces of literature ever written, next to the Bible. And again, like I said, this isn't about the party. This is about Grays Harbor and the people. So, and doing the right thing, being transparent, and being able to be taken to task. And somebody say, well, why did you make that decision? And to be able to give an answer for it, a real answer. So I think that's more important in what people are looking for, and why I have support from both Democrats and Republicans is because they know how hard I work, and they know that I do have integrity, and that I do what I say, and I mean what I say. And so I think that's more important than politics as usual for Republicans and Democrats. Nobody should deny that there isn't corruption on both sides. There is. We have to be better than that. No matter what side you're on, we have to be better than that.
You know, when I was a city council person for Montesano, we had a lot of contentious issues. And what was interesting is that we worked through those issues. And I know that my fellow council members were both Democrat and Republican, but I didn't know who was the Democrat or the Republican, because it didn't matter. It mattered about doing what was best for the public and the community. And that's something I also saw as an auditor, where auditors are elected, you know, partisan. I was Democrat or Republican, and they'd meet at these conferences. Like 39 auditors would meet, Republican and Democrat. And even though they were elected by a partisan, part of the partisan system, they were all involved in providing free and fair elections. And they were all involved in providing services. And the one really great thing about that group is they all helped each other. I could call a Republican auditor in another county and say, I'm having an issue with this system, and they would help me because it was more important, the institution and providing for our community. And I believe, I mean, that's the same in all local government. You know, we'll have our parties, but that's not going to change what we do for the public. We're going to do the best we can for the public, and we're going to work with people. So,
Thank you. Rick, in the county commission meetings, your budget is important. What would you do to help with the unfunded mandates?
So the unfunded mandates then are, so you got your budget and the things that you know that you need, the services that you know to make. And then all of a sudden there's a law passed that you have to do X, Y, Z, and it's gonna cost you $35,000. So there's no funding passed to go with that mandate. And I think that the first thing is to be like on the alert, like you have the Iron Dome. Make sure that they're not sending in, unfunded mandates. So how do you do that? Well, you know your legislators, you know what's going on at the state. You're involved, and you're letting people know that that's not what you want to see. You want to see more of a grassroots, ground-up approach. So how do you do it? I think that anytime you're putting together a budget, you have to have, well, like if you're going to build a house, you have a contingency. Generally, in construction and everything that we did at Ocean Spray, that 30% ROI was calculated after 15% in contingency. So you've got money that you've earmarked or set aside to handle these things that come at you. So I think that's the way you have to do it. First step is prevention. Second step, preparation, so if they do come at you, you can handle them.
Brian?
Yeah, I think I would communicate that to the source of the unfunded mandates, to our legislators, et cetera. And depending on the issue, if it was serious enough, either do it under protest or there may be certain things that I would ask my fellow commissioners to not do. There's risk in that, but standing on your principles has value too. So hypotheticals are always difficult, but unfunded mandates is a problem. And when I was in the legislature, we heard a lot from counties that about unfunded mandates, and I'd certainly be in a different role.
Thank you. Chris?
I think the main thing would be, and I've heard it from the other panelists, is work with the legislators. I mean, if it's coming from the legislators, and that may mean being proactive, being involved with the associations and going there, commissioners from our county, and being aware of what's being proposed, and addressing it as it's going through the legislative process. But there's a lot of them, a lot of unfunded mandates. So I guess it requires diligence, being proactive.
Thank you. Georgia?
So going back to one of the benefits of having a county administrator is it will free up the commissioner's time to be building relationships with the legislation and these legislators, so that when things like that come down the pike, that we can use those relationships, leverage those relationships to get additional funding. One of the things that I had talked about to some of the people running for office is, well, if you get into this position, will you remember Grays Harbor? Because Grays Harbor has some real problems. We have the largest opiate addiction of any county in Washington State, yet we get the least funding of any county in Washington State. They talk about equity all the time, but what about rural equity? What about our fair share of funding to fight the opiate problem? We need to be building relationships and be holding these legislators accountable and saying, where is the funding for Grays Harbor? If you're gonna make a mandate, where is the funding for Grays Harbor? Because we are not getting what we ought to be getting. And so we need to be building meaningful, real relationships with people so that we can help address these issues when they come. And they're gonna come, but they're already here. We already have some of these issues. So we need to work on those relationships to solve the issues that are here now.
I'm gonna go to you, Georgia. So if you are elected, how are you going to be with your constituents when we call? Or at one point in time, I had an elected tell me that they would give me the password to their computer and let me see what was on their computer. I don't expect that, but how are you going to meet with me or with anyone here that has a question or a comment?
I'm an oversharer, so I probably would give you my password too. I really don't have anything to hide. I'm very approachable and very open. My cell phone number is published. My address is published. People stop by my house and ask me about things all the time. I have fielded a ton of calls from people that want to ask me about why I'm running and what I think about this issue or that issue and what I would do about this issue. And they're already giving me their problems and what can we do to solve them. I'm available. And again, I'm a hard worker, and so there isn't I'm done at 5, 9 to 5. My life has never been 9 to 5, never. And it certainly wouldn't start being 9 to 5 because I got the county commissioner job. So when I get in office, I will be open to the people of Grays Harbor. I want to hear from them. I want to hear their success stories, and I want to hear what troubles them, their problems, and their ideas. How can we solve some of these issues? Because there's a lot of really smart people in Grays Harbor, people that are smarter than I am for sure. And we need to be tapping into these people to help us solve some of these big issues. But I think being open and available is important, and I've been really open. You can ask my clients now. They message me on the weekends, and my husband is always saying, why are you answering that text now? You don't have to. But I feel like I do have to. It's their businesses, and it's important to them, and so it's important to me. So that's how I would approach that.
Thank you. Yes.
I think one of the responsibilities of being a public official is just being available and responsive to any constituent or citizen that has an issue. I've taken phone calls at home. I've met with people. My cell number is on my campaign stuff, and I've given it out to people. So just being available and responsive, and that continues as county commissioner as it does in other positions like city council or school board.
Well, I was last in the legislature on January 1st of 2021, I think, and I got to tell you, sometimes it feels like I'm still doing the job. The phone calls come in, Ryan, there's an issue with the fish hatchery at the NEMA, or various fisheries issues, or hunting issues, or wildlife issues, and I I still take the time to answer the questions, put them in contact with the right legislator on the right committee to answer their questions or deal with their issues. It just comes with being a citizen. I think being, whether you're a city council person or what have you, a county commissioner, you're there to serve and answer these questions. And sometimes they're tough questions, and that's okay. That's what we're here to do, and it's a job that we're asking you to hire us for. So, since I filed to run, the phone calls started coming in, and they weren't necessarily about county issues, but I was able to help folks develop a strategy to address the issue. So it's what we're signing up to do.
I think it's pretty much the same answer. My phone number also I publish. When I was plant manager, I was part of the team that took the plant from working 5 days a week to going 24/7. There was just a whole huge economy of scale by working those 12-hour shifts. And at that point, I realized that, if the people were working through the weekend, then I'm on call. And so I've always been on call. Right now, I've got my phone on Do Not Disturb. It'll also be on Do Not Disturb Sunday mornings. But other than that, I'm here to take calls, and I think that's the responsibility of the commissioners, that we're here to serve. You need to know what's going on. You want to know what's going on, especially if there's problems. You want to know right now, and so that's the way I've always been.
So you have been, the audience has been very patient, and you all have been wonderful about answering the questions. We have one more question, and then if you can take 2 minutes after that after we answer the question, to close and tell people why you're the person to vote for. Rick, there's been the opportunity zone that the county has been dealing with. Can you say what you believe is a problem and how to fix it? 2 minutes or less.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way to fix it was when we built the opportunity zone, because the way it works is you're able to sell assets and then take that money and reinvest it in an opportunity zone, and the opportunity zones were designated, and so we just happen to have one in the downtown Aberdeen area. And the way that it works is if you can keep your money there invested for 10 years, then when you sell that asset, then your taxes that you would have normally paid on capital gains will be forgiven. And so now we have the issue. So I think the law should have had some sort of a proviso for not just buying and holding, but there should have been some sort of investment incentive to get that full 10-year deferral. Or not, it's not a deferral, it's a complete exclusion. So, and that's what we see now, those buildings being held for that period. I've called the owner, and I've also heard of people that have worked with him to rent spaces, and so he seems to be open to business ideas. And so I think that when we get those ideas, we just need to approach him and try to work forward with the constraints that we have and find productive uses for those buildings.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I think, as communities and county, I think we're gonna have to go to our legislators and Congress critters and look to get the law tweaked in such a way that it doesn't create this situation, and I think government means well sometimes, but folks are waiting in the wings to take advantage in ways we didn't foresee. And so I think we've got that'll work together to work our way out of this situation and see that it doesn't happen again.
Thank you. So, Chris? Save the best for last.
I think I agree with Brian, is to go back and find a way to fix it, to improve it at the start, and then look at it.
Georgia?
This is why I'm such a big believer in cause and effect, and why we have to think moves out, because there is those that seek to take advantage of a situation. In theory, it was a really good idea, but unfortunately, it wasn't planned out well enough, and oftentimes we have politicians that write bills and law and mandates, and they don't really think about the cause and effect of what could happen and what are the consequences of these things. And so I think from the start, yes, they should have spent more time like the what if scenarios, and that's the approach that I will take as county commissioner is, well, have we thought out all the what if scenarios and what could happen? Because it's important, because look at downtown Hoquiam and Aberdeen and all those vacant buildings and what it's done to our communities. It's terrible. And so we need to make sure that those things don't happen. And so, yeah, I think to some degree on this one, they probably need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because it's just bad policy. And so we need to do better than that. And again, we need to go back and hold the lawmakers accountable to their actions and to what they're doing. And I welcome Grace Harbor residents to hold me accountable. If I do things that are questionable, ask me why I did them. If you hear something's gonna come down the pike and you have a thought to why that might not be a good idea, tell me so. I will listen to you, because I want to make the best choices for Grays Harbor County, because I love it here. I care about Grays Harbor and the people here. They're my neighbors, my friends, my family.
So I want to say thank you for attending this. I know that this is not what I would think to be a fun time to spend my Wednesday evening. And I want to thank Dan Lindgren for videotaping this. Janet, our Vanna White with the timer. And Lynn, thank you for helping with the water, keeping everybody so that they're not thirsty. We appreciate that very much. And I hope that by the time that you see this, that this will help answer some questions and make the right decision when you go to vote. So, Minute, tell us why we should vote for you.
1 minute?
1 minute.
1 minute. I just want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to thank everybody that's up here. I think you have a hard selection to make. There's well-qualified people. I'm presenting to you a person that has, I started working when I'm 15. I'm still working hard every day. I'm going to work for you. I'm going to serve you. I understand government, workforce development, dollars. I understand from the assessors, so I understand that perspective, but I'm coming at you really from the private perspective, from less government, not more. More opportunity for people. I know a lot of people who've lived in Grays Harbor. We need jobs so people will stay in Grays Harbor. I'm Rick Cole. I'm running for County Commissioner position 2. I'm eager to serve you, and please vote for me. Thank you.
Brian, thank you.
Again, thank you all for coming tonight. Brian Blake, I'm asking you to hire me to be your County Commissioner, District 2. The Grays Harbor is on the cusp of growing. Our rail is stable. The port is really humming, and there's much more to do. The hospital districts are stabilizing and starting to move out to deliver services out in the county. And as you heard, our number one reason is to bring jobs. And I think the pellet mill is a viable opportunity. I think stabilizing our existing timber companies and our plywood mill, etc. But more than that, you know, we live in a beautiful place, and tourism is certainly part of the industries that sustains us here. So all those things, and Brian Blake, please hire me November 5th.
Thank you. Chris?
Our county faces a lot of challenges. At the same time, we have a lot of opportunity. And I'd like to bring thoughtful leadership and the experience that I have to the county commissioner's office and the problems that we face. So I ask you to hire me for county commissioner.
Thank you. Georgia?
You will get a tireless cheerleader for Grays Harbor County, a tireless doer. I will work hard for you. I will make things happen here in Grays Harbor, because that's what I've always done, is make things happen. I make opportunities. I don't wait for them to come along. I build relationships with people. I see a need. I fill a need. I like to create things. Vote for me, put me in the seat, let's create things together. I want to hear from you. I want your ideas and your solutions, and I'll work hard for you. I promise you I will work hard every single day for you to feel confident that you made the right choice.
Thank you. Our next forum is October 2nd, Wednesday, October 2nd. We'll be having Adam Birnbaum and Matthew Robertson. And again, I can't thank you enough for attending, and for the people out in the audience to hang in there with us. And I hope that you've been able to learn some things that may help you to make your decision. Thank you.